Hey guys, this is Whyt Manga here, creator of Apple Black. The first 3 chapters are free online. I'll leave a link to check that out on Saturday AM. I'll leave a link in the About section or the description or whatever YouTube calls it these days. Here with a video, about Apple Black and what it used to be or what it's become, and the direction that I'm taking it. Back in the day, I came up with the idea, and it was called Strawberry Black, and there were a lot of things that I didn't know, a lot of research that I hadn't done yet, and I still had a little idea of where I wanted to go with the comic. But for the most part, while I was drawing the comic, it started to feel like I was drawing the comic for the sake of drawing a comic, because maybe I thought I could draw, and I was not feeling it. And I hadn't done, like I said, I hadn't done enough research, and so there were a lot of things I didn't know about manga and about comic making in general, writing and character development, and all sorts of development. And back, when I first started, I didn't read that much manga. I didn't watch that many movies, and when I did, I didn't, because, well, nowadays when I watch anything, any cartoon, any movie, music video, almost anything, read any books, anything that I can gain inspiration from, I do exactly that. I try to gain inspiration from. I try to study it. So if I go to movies and I'm at that point where anything I watch or read, even though I'm doing that for entertainment value, I also try to study it and try to figure out the things that work and the things that don't. Maybe in a sense critique it in my head and try to figure out if it's a movie, what the director was thinking, why did they take that shot at this angle, why does this work, why does that work, why was this twist so effective, why was this twist stupid. I pick things apart and dissect them and try to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and that's what I do now. Back in the day, I was just it's just what I just watched or read, and I thought it was cool. And when it came to manga, what I read the most was Bleach and Naruto, and I knew there were other things out there. Well, Bleach, Naruto, and Rurouni Kenshin, which is Samurai X. I was not big on Pokemon or Digimon or Dragon Ball or anything like that. I knew they were really popular, but I hadn't really given them a chance yet. I still haven't watched Dragon Ball. I know a couple people probably hang me for that, but I'll get to it. Point is, I was really moved by manga, and I thought it's some pretty cool stuff. And a friend of mine, the typical dream kind of thing where let's make a manga, and that's what we did. And I came up with a lot of cool ideas, and I didn't really have. I mean, I had an idea what I wanted to do, but I didn't really have a message, and I didn't have a really solid goal with with the whole manga and everything. So I rushed. It was somewhat rushed, and after watching a couple YouTube videos and learning very little, I started working on the manga, and it was Strawberry Black at the time. It was really heavily Bleach influenced. And I was doing my best at the time to improve my artwork and trying to stay away from that and improve my art style, which at the time was really Bleach influenced, like I said. So I thought back in the day it was more of like a noob thing, and I thought manga had to be Japanese, not necessarily had to be drawn by Japanese, but I thought most of what I saw or read, it was Japanese, with Japanese culture really heavy in it, and with Japanese characters, Japanese names. When you read the manga, it's Japanese sound effects, it's read right to left, and all that stuff. And I thought that that's the way it was supposed to be, and that's what distinguished manga from Western comics. And the truth is, Western comics and manga are really the same thing. It's just different I say maybe just different cultures and traditions that just, you know, make them different from each other. But manga is comics, comics is manga. It's the same thing. It's both. They're both sequential art. It's just like I said, cultures that differ. You know, that brings the difference between both of them. You know how manga. At the time, I didn't even know why it was read right to left, and the reason is because Japanese is read from right to left. At least, you know, some kind of Japanese is read from right to left, and I didn't know that at the time. So when I did manga right to left, and it was just a new move. Not saying that you shouldn't do your manga right to left, but at least if you understand why it's right to left, then and you still make the decision, then it's fine. I just thought that, you know, those were just one of the things that made it different from you know, Western style comics, and I wanted to do manga. I don't know. At the time, I was really influenced by, you know, the Bleach and the Naruto, so I wanted to do manga. You know, and another thing is black and white. Truth is, there's some colored mangas and there's some black and white comics. So, and another thing is, if I wanted to be published in America or an English-speaking country, it had to be left to right, because the book would be obviously read from left to right and not right to left. Unless, I mean, if I was in Japan, then drawing right to left would make a whole lot more sense, at least for me. Like I said, I'm not against drawing right to left. At least, you know, if you're the artist or the writer, and you know, you make that conscious decision, knowing fully well, you know, at least knowing why, or you know, knowing why manga generally takes that reading orientation, then you know it's fine, as long as you fully understand. So what I'm trying to say is, when I first made Strawberry Black, it was really Japanese. It had Japanese characters, Japanese names, putting Japanese sound effects when I couldn't and still can't speak Japanese. And when I was doing, like, you know, sound effects, it was kind of stupid, where I'll be making very noob moves and be trying to do some Japanese sound effects, and I wouldn't even know what the meaning of, you know, I wouldn't know the meaning, basically. And sometimes I actually be freestyling and it just be like scratches. It was just, first off, it's very unprofessional and it was not a good move on my part. But again, it came down to me not doing the proper research to know why I'm making these decisions, or even why they're decisions at all. I also found myself trying to push things that I thought were cool, that I, you know, experienced with other mangas and other comics, and I tried to, you know, force them into mine. And you know, with time, as you grow and mature as an artist, you try to you then realize some of the, you know, mistakes you're making, and you know, that was one of them. And basically, I wasn't good as a writer, so that was another thing that I needed to, you know, learn. I needed to do my research on writing, how to write, you know, create characters, develop a story, have good pacing. Know exactly what you're doing. Do your research. If you're going to do like a shonen manga or a seinen manga, try and understand the elements that are, you know, generally found in these kinds of manga, or shoujo, generally found in these kinds of mangas, and, you know, understand why they're in there, and, you know, see how they apply to you, if they apply to you, and still try to input your own flair to bring something new to the game. These are things that, you know, you learn with time, and I'm just skimming through them. I plan on, you know, creating a series that will probably help others that are creating manga, and sway them away from making the mistakes that I made in the past. For instance, you know, you having, you know, all these Japanese characters with Japanese names. I'm not saying that you can't have it, but you should understand why they're utilized. I mean, if you want your comic or manga to be published in America, it's kind of, at least from a marketing or business standpoint, it's not a great move. And even from an artistic point of view, you know, with some artistic integrity. I mean, if you have a character, you call him, you know, some Japanese name, I don't know, Tsubaki or something. You don't, because I see a lot of comics and they make this mistake, and it's all Japanese, all these Japanese characters, and even if the setting or the premise looks different, but they still have some heavy Japanese culture influences, and you know, this Japanese names, and the person can't speak a flinch of Japanese, doesn't know anything about Japanese culture, or hasn't done any research on it, you know, then why do it? Is because at least from my experience, the reason you do it is because you see all the other big mainstream mangas do it, and you think, you know, that's the way it's supposed to be, when really it isn't. Those do it because they're in Japan. You do it because, you know, do it. Like I said, you can still do it. You can still make Japanese characters, but at least understand why. For instance, Spider-Man is not in Tokyo; it's in America. It's not in Japan; it's in America. And you know, not because Western comics are different from manga. Manga and comics are the same thing. It's just different cultures and traditions, and you know, reading orientations that make them seem really different. There are colored mangas out there, and there are black and white comics. Those are not differences. There really isn't a difference between manga and comics. And so even, you know, now that I have done some more research on, you know, not just Japanese culture, because that's not where my comic, which is now Apple Black, because I've, you know, developed the story, developed the characters, and changed a lot of things, and I think I have a solid comic now where I actually have a message that I want to convey, and ideas, and you know, things I want to hit. And at this point, you know, back when it was Strawberry Black, there wasn't that urge to really complete the manga. You know, I mean, I always loved the manga, and I always wanted to, you know, complete it and have a bunch of volumes, and you know, be working on it. But you know, now it's more like, I think I like the project so much that it's gotten to a point where I feel like I have to, you know, it's almost like my life would be incomplete if I don't, you know, find a way to get the story out there. And so I think that's how happy I am with the project. Even though I'll be the first to admit that it's not perfect, and there are things that I will still learn, that I still want to learn about, you know, writing and storytelling as a whole. Even the greatest writers will tell you that, you know, there are a lot of tools and, you know, tips and techniques and, you know, skills that are embedded within writing that you almost can't be a master of it all. You will see people that are actually in Hollywood that actually write, you know, screenplays and stuff like that that still go to, you know, writing schools, and you know, still take writing classes, because you know, you can never be, you know, at the brim, I guess. There is always, you know, something to learn. At least that, you know, and that's what I personally have learned. And so when it comes to writing and even drawing, you know, there's still a lot for me to learn. Digital artwork, traditional artwork, there's still a lot for me to learn. But you know, I'm really satisfied with with the product that I currently have compared to what I used to have. And you know, I see a lot of, you know, new aspiring artists like myself, but you know, newer, making the mistakes, at least making things that I consider to be mistakes, and you know, they just don't know, because the truth is, yeah, the required amount of research that hasn't been done, and just at this point, I guess they're just having fun. Now, look, if you're making the comic as a hobby, that's different. You can do whatever you want, you know. But if you want to be serious about it, and you want to sell, and you want to make money off it, these are things to really consider. You know, for instance, Naruto, that will be ending in November. There are things about Naruto that, if Naruto is the only comic you read, and you indirectly, unconsciously get inspired, and you know, get some influence from it, And say for instance the way the ninjas have their headbands. Now, Naruto ninjas are not the only ninjas that wear the headbands, but the way that the headbands are drawn and utilized in the comic is very unique. So for you to put that in your own comic that is not Naruto makes it feel like fan fiction, and you end up looking less professional and less, like someone who knows what they're doing in the eyes of others. And so it's not just about being too Japanese, but it's about not knowing what you're doing and only gaining influences and inspiration from one source. I'm not saying you can't have Japanese characters. I'm not saying you cannot have Japanese influence, because even in Apple Black, despite what I've said, I have done some research, and there are there is Japanese influence in the manga, but what I take from the Japanese culture or Japanese manga are things that I know, and I'm not just inspired, but unlike when I was working on the comic when it was Strawberry Black, what I'm inspired by now is vast, is wide, is much more than just manga. I'm inspired by other comics, cartoons, movies. I've been really big into movies nowadays, watching a lot of Christopher Nolan, and can't remember who the director of Fight Club. Give me a second. David Fincher, and other creators of. I'm inspired by a lot of creators now. If I wanted to go down the list, there are a lot of people that I'm inspired by. Some even here on YouTube. Some movie makers, animators. The list goes on. LaShawn Thomas, Mark Curley. Like I said, David Fincher, Christopher Nolan, Martin Scorsese. Nowadays, when I read things and watch things, I dissect them and try to figure out, why things work and why things don't work. Because not everything that these people do I actually like, but I try to learn from them and study. I study everything now, almost everything. Video game storylines, Metal Gear, Hideo Kojima. I'm inspired by a lot now, like a whole lot more. And I think it has helped, my arsenal and the way, my style of storytelling, my style of, drawing, my style of writing, and, storytelling as a whole. And I think that's one thing that, people lack, and, maybe they're just caught up in this manga bubble, and they, they get stuck there when they can get inspiration from, other places, and, they could, gain more and bring more to the table, bring more to the game, and maybe be more original and be more creative and do things that have not been seen, in the field of sequential art as a whole. Frank Miller, Sin City. I was a big fan of the recent Sin City. Even things where, for example, the latest Sin City movie, A Dame to Kill For. I really loved the witty dialogue. So that's that's another thing that I want to work on. It's my dialogue and stuff like that. So I made my comic less Japanese because it wasn't right. It didn't fit. Once I realized and did my research on why things were the way they were, I saw that was not the direction I wanted to take. And so I made things less Japanese for even business reasons. If I was going to be published in America, it didn't make sense. Even if I was going to get published by a company or get published independently, it didn't make sense. So if you just name characters, which I can make a video on, when it comes to naming characters, it's kind of like a really vast thing. There isn't any one way to do things. There isn't any one way to do things anywhere, and in anything really. Sometimes you take risks and they work. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you take risks and they fall flat. So with the manga, I changed a lot of names. I changed a lot of the storylines. I came up with really original storylines and plot points, twists, improved on my pacing, character development, and so on and so forth. Not that it's perfect, because it's not, but with time and the more that I do my research and learn, things will get better. For instance, there are really like 2 or 3 characters with Japanese names in the comic, compared to when it was Strawberry Black, and everything was Japanese, and my style was really Bleach heavy, while my style right now is, I don't think it's Bleach heavy at all. Once in a while I will get some comparisons, but that's about as far as it gets, because it's really Apple Black's style, story, premise is nothing like Bleach. The art style would have slightly some similarities to Bleach, but that's because Bleach is one of my many inspirations, so it kind of makes sense. But Apple Black is clearly much more different from any other thing, not just Bleach, because I still get comparisons to, I don't even get Bleach comparisons as much nowadays. I get it's kind of mixed. There isn't one comic that I get all the time, but from I was known for the Bleach comparisons back when I was doing the Strawberry Black, because Bleach was all I read, and maybe and I read a little Naruto, and I didn't open my mind to other things and try to understand the craft and improve on it and try to bring something new to the table while adding my own flair, because before manga I was already drawing, I just wasn't drawing manga, so there was like a unique, original Odunze touch to things. And I think that I've brought that on a writing level and on an art level. There's still room for improvement, like I've said, and I will keep saying. But these are the things that people, the aspiring artists that are coming up, should keep in mind, and not try to be too much. Not try to come off more professional, and not. From a fanboy standpoint, where if somebody reads it, they just see you as a fanboy. Maybe you're creating fan fiction rather than something completely original, where it just looks like completely like something else. Sometimes people will critique and say whatever they want to say, but as long as you are honest with yourself and this is what you want to do, then it's fine. So to sum things up, the things were very Japanese back in the day with Strawberry Black, because basically I was a noob. And now that I've done my research, which I urge everybody to do, things will get better. You make the changes, you become more original, you become more creative, you bring newer things to the table when you explore and try to gain inspiration and influences from movies, music, cultures, traditions, other manga, other comics, cartoons, certain animations, or anything you want, personal life experiences. So try to gain real life, try to gain inspiration from all that you can, and you will see what I'm talking about. And if you want to do something that's, say your comic is about samurais, then and you want, and it's based in Japan, you don't have to be from Japan to do that, but as long as you've done your research and things make sense, you can even do your research right and still twist things, like make stuff up, but at least you have that foundation where there's a stronger feeling of you knowing what you're doing rather than just winging things. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I changed a lot, and despite what I've said, like I said, there's still a lot of Japanese influences in Apple Black, but I'm influenced by other cultures, and you will see as time goes on, and you can tell from some of the character designs that I've shown in Apple Black that it's not, and not just character designs, but building designs and stuff like that, that it's not set in one thing. The word Japan does not exist in Apple Black, which gives me a lot of room to do whatever I want. And so in Apple Black, I'm almost like God, there is no Japan. There is no Mexico. There is no nothing. There is no New York. It's a completely alternate universe that allows me room to do whatever I want. And you know, that's the setting that I wanted, but it will still incorporate it'll still have cultures and traditions from, you know, things that I myself have been exposed to, keeping it fresh, diverse. You know, basically there's a lot of variety. So, you know, even if you meet a character with a Japanese name, it doesn't mean that there's Japan. Or if you meet a character with a German name, which you will see, you know, not just Germany, but, you know, other cultures and you know, other cultures and traditions that I have been exposed to. So at the same time, I'll try to write things that I know. Even the Japanese things, like I said, I can't speak Japanese, but for the Japanese that's in there, I make sure I know almost everything I need to know about it. For instance, Osamu, the last name Shimojigoku, even though it might not be it might not even be correct Japanese grammar, but the names have it has two parts with the Shimo and the Jigoku, and they both mean like frosted hell. So, well, frozen or freeze or whatever, and Jigoku is hell. And you know, putting them together is kind of like frosted hell, which is what I was going for, and it's why that's one of the things that hasn't changed since the beginning. Like, that's one name that has stuck, that has, you know, it hasn't changed since Strawberry Black, and it's not going to change because that's exactly what I wanted. And you know, just things like that where you do some research. So even back then when I did Strawberry Black, I did do some research. I mean, I didn't just jump into it, but I didn't do enough. But that's one name that I wanted to keep. It might not even be correct Japanese grammar, but that is what I wanted. Plus, it sounds really cool. I mean, come on, Shimojigoku. That was, I don't know, that was just gold to me. But it might not even be correct Japanese grammar, but I don't care. It's not Japan. It's an alternate universe where I have a lot of room to do whatever I want as the creator, and I wanted that creative space when doing Apple Black, where I can, you know, input a lot of cultures, not crazy, but you know, to where it still fits, but you will see a lot of cultures and traditions and, you know, historical. You'll see. I mean, my characters are not even Japanese. They're not. I'm not saying they're anything really. They are what they are is, you know, from my manga. That's the, I think that's the major thing. Whether they have Japanese names or not, which they don't. Like, people in my comic, they're like, what, two people with Japanese names, or three. And for instance, now Ryuzaki, his name's actually, for those who read the comic, they know his name's actually not Ryuzaki. He kind of named himself after something else that possesses that name that's not even a human being. So, like, my characters are not Japanese. I'm not even saying they're anything. I'm not saying they're white. I'm not saying they're black. They are just from the manga. I kind of, sometimes I may use the names to define where they're from and kind of group and categorize people and stuff like that. But that's about it. There are like two people with Japanese names in the comic, but doesn't mean they're Japanese. I mean, they could be, but I mean, they could be or could look like, but that's about it. They're not. No one is Japanese in the comic. No one's German, no Mexican, or anything like that. Those terms in those countries do not exist. There will be tribes like that that are inspired by maybe those cultures or cultures that I know that I'm exposed to, but that's about it. That's pretty much it. Sano, the name, Sano means say in Finnish, and it means healthy in Spanish. I mean, it's just because, yeah, man, you'll get the point. Basically, you know, they're not Japanese, and they're not anything. You know, nothing against Japan, but you know, they're not anything. They are from the comic. It's my alternate universe where I've allowed myself the room to make these changes and, you know, allow myself the liberties to do what I'm doing. You'll see, basically. But point is, before you do anything, and in this case, like I said, you know, being very, very Japanese in your manga, but it could be anything else. Before you do anything, you should do some research before you jump into it. It's almost like drawing dynamic dynamic figures. Before you go into this dynamic figure and try to draw the bodies in, you know, certain angles, at least try and understand the body when it's just standing and understand the anatomy a little bit before you go crazy with it, because you can, you know, end up doing some really stupid stuff like I did. At least in my opinion, that's it. So, you know, these are the reasons why I changed what I changed. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope I didn't ramble on too long. I think I did. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We good? Yeah, we good. Just don't forget to like and favorite this video. Subscribe for more if you want more. Click on the annotations for the videos that are featured. You know, you can learn stuff from my tutorials, or learn just a whole lot more about Apple Black as a whole. For details on what Saturday AM is and what it you know, what's about, there'll be links in the description for you guys to go check that out. Leave a comment on the video you want to see next, whether it's a tutorial video or a video you want from me explaining anything about the manga if you have read it. And if you haven't read the manga, there's a link for you to go read it in the description below. The description or the about section below will also have links to, you know, things that you might find interesting. You know, Facebook page, Whyt Manga Facebook page, Saturday AM Facebook page, or you can, you know, you can tweet at me, or you can just, you know, tweet, spread the word about the manga. Any support is much appreciated. You can hashtag Apple Black, or just, you know, tweet at me. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. This is Whyt Manga, and I'm out.